Hey guys, welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Basics Part 2 from SA Scrubs. This is the second part of Basic series that goes through a few different things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Some of it's a bit basic, some of it's pretty complex, so we're going through a few different things in here. So in this video we'll go through turn structure, battle phase structure, field structure, summoning conditions, briefly, because there's a lot of them, chaining, SEGOC, so simultaneous effects go on chain, and missing the timing and response timing. Turn structure. So, as we know, there's the draw phase, standby phase, main phase, optional battle phase and main phase 2, and then the end phase. So the draw phase is the start of every player's turn. The player draws the card, that's the draw phase. Except for player going first, they start in the draw phase, but they won't draw. Standby phase, spell speed 2, 3 or 4 effects can be activated at this time. Main phase 1 is an open game state. Battle phase can be skipped if turn player does not wish to do battle. It is automatically skipped on first turn. So obviously you can't battle on your first turn on Yu-Gi-Oh! And more detail in the next slide for the battle phase. Main phase 2 is same as main phase 1, it's an open game state. And then the end phase where other effects can be activated as well, such as quick effects or end phase effects. Both players must agree to move on to the next phase. The main phase effects, battle phase effects, and end phase effects. Stuff like Nibiru and Ultimate Conductor have to activate in the main phase, so that's why you say going to battle phase or ending main phase, and your opponent has a chance to say no, I want to activate something. So, and then even going standby phase, it's good etiquette just to go draw phase, drawing, standby phase, anything. Ask your opponent, just communicate with each other. It makes the game so much easier. Just communicate your steps, communicate what phases you're going through, and communicate what you're doing. Battle phase structure. There's the start step, the battle step, the damage step, and then the end step. The start step is where a player has declared that they are starting the battle phase. Quick effects and trigger effects that apply can activate here. Battle step, the attack declaration window, triggers such as Mirror Force. Before the damage step, both players agree to move on it, is now the damage step. Okay, so there's the attack declaration window where stuff like Link Rebo and Mirror Force can be used. Once you pass that point, and go into the damage step, you cannot activate stuff such as Mirror Force or, yes, Link Rebo. Damage step, I'll go through it in detail on the next slide because there's a lot in it. End step, signifies the end of the battle phase. Quick effects or trigger effects may be used here. Effects such as evenly match, for example, that say end of battle phase. Now, here's the damage step. It's one of the most confusing parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! People get it confused a lot, that and damage calculation. We'll go through both in here. Start of damage step, trigger effects that say at the start of the damage step or something similar may be activated. Quick effects that alter attack and defense can also be activated. Effects that negate activations of cards can also be activated. And monsters are not yet flipped. So if you're attacking a monster that's face down, defense position, it is not yet flipped. Before damage calculation. So monsters are flipped before damage calculation. Flip effects are not yet activated. So it's flipped, but it's not yet activated. It's just checking attack and defense at this point. Cards that are activated before damage calculation can be activated. So they will have that text in it usually. Quick effects that alter attack and defense may also be activated. After it's flipped up, you can activate something like limiter removal if it's a machine, or something like Forbidden Chalice, or stuff like that. Perform damage calculation. So battle damage is calculated and inflicted. Effects that apply during damage calculation apply now. Cards and effects that activate during damage calculation can activate now. Monsters destroyed by battle are not yet sent to grave. Cards that alter attack and defense can no longer be activated during the rest of the damage step because they're already calculating the damage. After the damage calculation, monsters destroyed by battle are not yet sent to the graveyard. Cards that activate after damage calculation may be activated. Effects that activate when a player takes battle damage may be activated. And flip effects may also be activated. So here's where if you're attacking Shadows, which is the meta right now, then this is when they'll be flipped after damage calculation. So damage is already done, and then they activate their effect. End of the damage step. Monsters destroyed by battle are now sent to the graveyard. If an effect destroys another card instead of the monster being destroyed by battle, e.g. Lost World, Dingirsu, is performed at this time. Once no effects are left to activate or resolve, the damage step ends and the battle step is re-entered. Now, onto the field structure. So it's pretty basic with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Field. As you can see, the main monster zone, spell and trap zone, field zone, graveyard, extra deck, main deck, extra monster zones that came in with link summoning, and pendulum zones, which have changed around a fair bit during its time, but they used to be on the sides of the boards up above the main deck and extra deck, but now they've changed back into the spell and trap zone. Banish zone does not exist, but in tournaments, you are asked to clarify with your opponent where you are placing your banished cards. They must be off-field and horizontal, so they can either be above your graveyard, which is a common one, or below your field, but it's up to you as long as you communicate with your opponent. Also, with the field zone, it is not classed as a spell and trap zone. So, it's a field spell zone. It's classed as a separate zone, so if something says destroy a card in the spell trap zone or target a card in the spell trap zone, they can't target a field spell card. But I think the only one from memory that does that is Salamangreat Heatleo. Just check your cards and make sure you understand that. Summoning conditions. So there's a few different ways to do it. There's normal summons are set as per normal. There's special summons by an effect of a monster, spell, or trap cards. Special summon conditions, such as Ultimate Conductor, can only be special summoned from hand by banishing 2 dinos from the graveyard. As you can see on the right there. ABC Dragon Buster also has a summoning condition that it must banish monsters listed on the card from the graveyard or field, or to special summon it. Other summoning conditions exist, such as players controlling no cards, or the opponent controlling more monsters or cards than you, as seen on Pankratops. Some summoning conditions are restrictive, some say must or must first. Others are optional and do not say must. So if you look at Ultimate Conductor, it says must first be special summoned. So once you've done that, you can Monster Reborn it. If a card like Blue Eyes Chaos Max, once it's ritual summoned, it cannot be summoned by any other way. It must be ritual summoned. It literally says on the card. Same with Thunder Dragon Colossus, even though it's now banned. It's the same sort of thing. It says cannot be special summoned any other way. It must be special summoned this way. So if you look at Pankratops, it doesn't care. It can do pretty much anything that it wants to do. Chaining. So this is the fast effect chart from the rule books. Well, from the rules online. So I want to have a look at that. Make sure you're familiar with it, because this is how turn structure works. So this is how priority, chain rules, stuff like that works. So chains are a stack of effects that determines how cards and effects resolve. Chains resolve backwards and cannot be interrupted while resolving. So if I have a Monster Reborn Chain Link 1, another card Chain Link 2, another card Chain Link 3, you cannot respond to the Chain Link 1 after Chain Link 3 and 2 have resolved. You've got to wait until the end of Chain Link 1 to respond, unless you chain to Chain Link 3. This fast effect timing chart explains most of it. Make sure you have a good run through of that. Hopefully the details are enough for you. I'll leave this on here for a little bit. Just make sure you go through it. Have a look at steps A, B, C, D, and E. Just make sure you understand how turn structures work. Understand how to go through stuff. If you want a better image, let me know and I can post one on the Facebook page. Now, SEGOC. This is something that has confused a lot of people. That simultaneous effects go on chain. So this occurs when multiple trigger or trigger-like effects activate at the same time. The player may choose the order in which the cards will chain with one another. It follows this order. The turn player's mandatory effects, 2 non-turn player mandatory effects, 3 turn players mandatory effects, and 4 non-turn players mandatory effects. So if player 2 has no mandatory effects, like non-turn player has no mandatory effects, then player 1 has 3, he can choose the order of all 3 of them. Exceptions are the few cards that meet their trigger at the same time, such as Battle Fader or Ogre of the Scarlet Sorrow. Only one may be activated, as the first is responding to the direct battle declaration, but the second would then be responding to the first one. So you can't activate the Ogre after you've activated Battle Fader, because the last thing to happen was Battle Fader. So it's missing the timing or just not finding its activation window. Same thing happens with True Draco monsters. If you have 2 monsters on board, you respond with one of them, you can't respond with the other one, because then you're responding to your Draco monster, which doesn't meet its activation window. Effects that meet their activation window during the activation or resolution of a chain are activated in a separate chain as long as they do not miss timing. So, for example, a danger being discarded by another danger, the danger will finish resolving, special itself or draw a card, and then the other one will special summon it, will activate its effect in the next chain. Another example was Curious. That has 2 effects. When it's link summoned, it sends a card from deck to the graveyard. So do that first effect, and then if you send, say you send Seer. So you send Seer, Seer's effect will activate, so will Curious. So they're both effects. So you activate both of them. Curious is mandatory, has to go first, and Seer is optional, so it has to go second. So you do Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2, and then go through it that way. But if you send Dante and Seer at the same time, say for Beatrice, you can choose which way they'll activate. So you can do Dante Seer or Seer Dante. So Chain Link 1 Dante, Chain Link 2 Seer, or opposite way around. So it's up to you which way you do it. Just remember that you can change a few of them, but you can't just activate like 3 effects at the same time if they're not mandatory, or they're not meeting a trigger. So you can't just activate 3 traps at the same time without your opponent responding. Every time you activate something, you have to give your opponent a chance to respond. Now, missing the timing or response timing. So I'll kind of put these into 2 because they not as big as the other stuff. So missing the timing is the inability to activate a card or optional effect when it would meet its activation timing because it is not possible to activate it in response to the required event. Missing the timing can mean different things. Thick Frog is a card that misses timing when it leaves the field by being used as a link summon because the last thing to happen was a link summon and not the card leaving the field. Cards such as Ash Blossom can miss timing if the opponent can chain block correctly using SEGOC to make sure that Chain Link 1 is their search card and Chain Link 2 is another effect that Ash cannot respond to. So this isn't really missing the timing, but it's another example of how you can miss your response window, pretty much, because of SEGOC. If you can chain block efficiently, then yeah, you can actually help out yourself. All cards that activate will start a chain. Looking at fast effects timing chart on the previous chaining slide explains how to respond. Your opponent is allowed to respond to the activation of cards or effects before you unless in regards to SEGOC or cards that say cannot be responded to. Now next time we'll go through distinguishing costs, recognizing effects, activations, and some problem solving card text. I'll take a bit of time going through the problem solving card text, go through a few examples, and then we'll see how we go from there.